You open your eyes in the Hog's head, and the man across from you has Dumbledore's eyes in a face that learned a different lesson from the same life. Not the warm blue that looked at you over half-moon spectacles across 7 years of your life. These eyes are the same color and the same shape, and they carry something different inside them. The specific cold of someone who loved something, lost it, and decided that the loving was the mistake. Aberforth Dumbledore pours himself a drink and does not offer you one. He says, "I know who you are. I know why you're here. And I'm going to tell you the same thing I've been telling everyone who's come through that door for the past year, which is that my brother's war is not my war, and his debts are not my debts." You say, "We didn't know you existed." He stops. He looks at you with the eyes that are his brother's eyes, and something moves through them that is not quite surprise and not quite pain, but is somewhere between both. Hermione says quietly, "We didn't know about Ariana either." The name lands in the room the way names land when they belong to an absence that has never stopped being present. Aberforth sets down his glass. He looks at the portrait on the wall behind the bar, the girl with the silver hair and the specific quality of someone painted at the age before the world had fully finished deciding what they would become. He says, "Of course he didn't tell you. Albus never told anyone about Ariana, the shame of what happened to her, the shame of what he did after." You say, "What did he do after?" He is quiet for a long moment. He says, "He left. He was 17 and brilliant, and the whole world was waiting for him. And she was there needing to be cared for. And he found a reason to look toward the world instead of toward her." Gellert Grindelwald arrived that summer, and Albus found in him everything he wanted to believe the world contained. And he looked away from my sister long enough for her to die. He says it without heat, without the specific bitterness of someone still processing, with the flat effect of someone who processed this a very long time ago and arrived at a truth they have been living inside ever since. He says, "After that, we didn't speak much. He became what he became. I stayed here, kept the bar, watched his war from the edge of it, and waited for it to end one way or another." Harry says, "And now?" Aberforth looks at him, at Harry specifically, with the eyes of a man doing an inventory of what he sees. He says, "You look like James. Around the eyes, something about the way you stand." Harry says nothing. Aberforth says, "He saved my brother once, you know. James Pott. Terror, years before the Order. Saved him from something he'd walked into without thinking it through properly. Albus was embarrassed by it for years. Never mentioned it to anyone." He stands up. He says, "There's a passage behind that portrait. Leads directly into the castle. I've been keeping it open for a year for the students in the Resistance. I'll open it once more." He looks at the portrait of Ariana. He says, "She would have wanted it. She always believed in people more than the evidence suggested she should." He moves toward the portrait and swings it open on its hidden hinge, and the tunnel behind it breathes cold air at you from the direction of the school. He says, without turning, "Bring as many of them back as you can. The ones that don't come back will be on my brother's conscience, wherever he is." You say, "He trusted us with the things that mattered, even when he didn't tell us everything." Aberforth's hand rests on the portrait frame for a moment. He says, "Yes, that was always his way." Then you are in the tunnel. The room of requirement receives you on the other side, and the room is full of people who have been living in it for months and who look at the four of you with the specific expression of people who have been waiting for something and are not entirely sure that what has arrived is the thing they were waiting for. Neville is there. The Neville who walks toward you across the room is not the Neville who was afraid of Professor Snape in the first year, or the Neville who lost control of his remember-all in the same lesson. He is the Neville who has been holding this room together through a year of occupation by people who wanted it to stop existing. And the Neville he has become is the specific person that the pressure of that year produced, which is someone who discovered what they were made of when the making of it was required. He says, "Harry, we didn't know if you'd make it." Harry says, "We almost didn't," several times. Then he sees Luna. Luna standing at the edge of the assembled people, with her eyes already on Harry in the specific way her eyes find the things that matter to her before she arrives at them physically. She crosses the room, and Harry meets her halfway, and the hug they hold is the hug of two people who have been writing letters in the dark for a year, and who are now in the same space and can confirm with the actual evidence of presence that the other one exists. You watch this for the length of time it deserves, which is a few seconds, and then you look at Hermione. She looks back. You say, "Snape first." She nods. The castle's corridors at night under Snape's administration have the specific quality of occupied territory. The way familiar spaces become unfamiliar when the authority in them changes and the authority is wrong. You move through them the way you have learned to move through hostile spaces, close to the walls, reading the patrols, using the fox form to scout corners before committing to them. Hermione draws the Carrows down 3 floors. You watch her do it through the fox's eyes from a ceiling junction, the specific controlled performance of a Muggle-born student who has just made herself visible to exactly the people who would most enjoy catching her, leading them away from the headmaster's office with the perfect bait of her own existence in a school that has decided her existence is an offense. She does not look afraid. She is afraid. You know this because you know her face at rest, and you know her face under pressure, and the face she is showing the Carrows as she draws them down the corridor is neither of those faces. It is the face she puts on when she has decided to be something that will accomplish a specific task. You love her completely for this. The headmaster's office is empty when you enter it through the window on the upper level. You stand in the room and let it be what it is for a moment, which is the room that was Dumbledore's and now isn't, filled with the specific quality of a space that is carrying the memory of someone while pretending to have moved past it. His books, the smell of old wood, and something underneath it that might be the residual presence of the specific magic he brought to every room he occupied for 60 years. Then Snape is behind you. His wand is at the back of your neck, and his silence has the quality of someone who has been waiting for exactly this, and is deciding how to proceed from it. You do not raise your hands. You do not turn around. You say, "Kill me. Go ahead." You'll rise considerably in Voldemort's estimation. The twin of Harry Potter caught breaking into the headmaster's office. He'll be delighted. The silence continues. You say, "We were in Gringotts. We opened your vault." His breathing changes very slightly. You say, "We found the pensive. We saw the memories. We know what Lily Evans was to you, and we know what Dumbledore asked you to do on the astronomy tower, and we know you didn't want to do it." The wand does not move. He does not speak. You turn around. His face is the face of someone whose entire professional existence has been built on the management of expression. And the management is intact except in one specific place, around the eyes, where the specific thing that memory does to people is doing what it does. You say, "Help us." He says, "He will know." He reads minds like text. You say, "He's been reading my brother's mind for 6 years. He's never read ours." He says, "He will kill everyone in this castle when he understands what you intend." You say, "Everyone in this castle is already at risk. The question is whether they die for something or for nothing." The specific silence of someone who has already made the decision they are in the process of making and is locating the words to confirm it. You say, "She would have wanted this. You know she would. That was the whole point of everything you've done since she died." He closes his eyes. When he opens them, the expression of Severus Snape has reconfigured into something you have never seen on his face in 7 years, which is the expression of someone who has stopped performing the role they were playing and is simply present in the moment they are in. He says, "There is a Horcrux in this castle." You say, "We know. The diadem." He says, "The room of requirement. Eastern side of the 7th floor corridor." You say, "Yes." He says, "There will be an assembly in the Great Hall. I will call it. I will announce your presence. I will provide the disruption you need." You say, "You'll be hunted for this." He says, "I have been hunted for longer than you've been alive." He pauses. He says, "Tell your brother what you know about me. Tell him before the end, whatever the end is. He deserves to understand it." You say, "I will." He says, "Now get out of my office." The Great Hall assembly happens with the specific theatrical quality of Snape doing something he is doing for reasons that are not the reasons it appears to be done for. And you watch it from the upper level through the fox's eyes, the cold announcement of your presence in the school, the specific silence that follows, and then Harry's voice from the middle of the assembled students, calm and present and entirely itself. McGonagall's fire and Snape's perfect deflection. Every curse redirected without touching anyone, and then he is through the window and gone into the night, and you understand that what he just did was tell you something without saying it. He deflected everything aimed at him. He hurt no one. He is ready for whatever comes next. You and Hermione go for the diadem. Ron and Harry go down to the chamber. You find the Grey Lady in the East Corridor, standing in the specific stillness of someone who has occupied the same space for 700 years and has run out of reasons to move through it with urgency. She looks at you with the eyes of someone who died young and has been carrying what she did for longer than most civilizations have existed. She says nothing when you approach. You say, "The diadem." She says, "I have told this story to the last person who asked, and what he did with the telling was to put my mother's wisdom to the worst possible use." You say, "I'm not going to do that." She says, "Everyone who has wanted it has said the same." You look at her. You think about what Voldemort could offer that she could refuse. Power, knowledge, neither of those. She is a ghost. Power and knowledge are not things a ghost can use. You say, "What do you want?" She looks at you with the specific attention of someone who has not been asked this question recently. You say, "Not the diadem. You. What do you want from whatever time is left before this ends?" She says, "I want it not to be used for harm anymore." You take Hermione's hand. You do not do it strategically. You do it because she is standing next to you, and her hand is there and the gesture is true. You say, "I want to protect the people I love." That's it. That's the whole reason. The Grey Lady looks at the two of you for a long moment. She says, "The room of requirement, the room where things are hidden." The castle shakes. Voldemort's army has arrived. The room of requirement in the form it takes when it is hiding things is vast, in the way that spaces become vast, when they have been accumulating the things that people needed to hide for 1,000 years. You move through it with Hermione, fast, reading the terrain the way your years of training have made automatic, and you feel the cup being destroyed through the force-adjacent sense the animagus work has developed, a specific disturbance from somewhere below you, Ron and Harry in the chamber doing what they went down to do. Then Draco. He steps out from between two stacks of furniture with his two followers and the specific expression of someone who has been backed into a position where they have decided the only direction available is forward. You don't want to fight Draco Malfoy. You have never particularly wanted to fight Draco Malfoy. The specific pity you have for him is the pity of someone who has watched a person spend 7 years performing a certainty they didn't have for an audience that would have destroyed them if they knew. You fight him anyway, because he is in the way, and the castle is coming down, and the thing you need is behind him. The duel is fast and close, and in the middle of it, one of his followers loses control of a Fiendfyre conjuration. The fire that results is not fire in any conventional sense. It is the specific magical fire that has will and appetite, chimeric and hungry, and it fills the room of requirement from the floor upward with the specific comprehensiveness of something that has been waiting in the potential of this moment for a very long time. The heat is immediate. The smoke is immediate. You lose Draco in the chaos, and you are looking for the diadem in the middle of a room that is destroying itself, and Hermione is beside you, and the fire is very close when you hear the broom. Harry on a stolen school broom, skimming the surface of the fire with the specific fearlessness of someone who stopped calculating risk separately from necessity somewhere around their 3rd year. He pulls you both up. He throws you the basilisk fang as you clear the worst of the flames below. You catch it. The diadem is visible on a wardrobe 20 feet below. The fire not yet reached it, and you dive off the broom in a controlled fall, the fang in your hand, and you drive it through the diadem with everything you have on the downward motion. The basilisk venom that has been preserved in the fang for 5 years, doing what basilisk venom does to the kind of magic that Horcruxes are made of. The scream that comes out of the diadem is not a sound, or not only a sound. It is the specific quality of something tearing that was sewn into a thing that was never meant to hold it. You throw the destroyed diadem into the Fiendfyre, and the fire consumes what remains. Harry's broom catches you on the way back up. You come through the room's doors into the corridor, and the corridor is the corridor of a castle that is being attacked from all sides. The specific chaos of a battle that has exceeded the bounds of what any individual person can hold a complete picture of. The Great Hall, the floor, Fred Weasley. You see George before you see Fred. You see George's face first, which tells you everything before the visual confirmation tells you anything, because George's face has never in your living memory looked like this, like a person discovering what the world is like on the other side of a specific loss. Fred is on the floor of the hall with his eyes open and the specific stillness of something that will not move again. And the laugh that was always part of his presence is simply absent. And the absence of it is the loudest thing in a room full of sound. Tonks is nearby. Colin Creevy, who was sent home and came back, who wanted to be here for this, and was. Others that you do not have the capacity to fully register, because registering them all would take something you do not have available right now. Someone is shouting about giving Harry to Voldemort. You hear the words before you locate the voice. You hit him. Once. Cleanly. He goes down. Not from rage, or not only from rage. From the specific refusal to allow the fear in this room to find its voice in the direction of surrender. Because the bodies on this floor died for the specific opposite of that, and you will not stand in the same room with their sacrifice and let someone give it away. Neville grabs your arm, a folded note, a paper construct that flew in through a broken window. Snape's handwriting, 10 minutes, the greenhouses. You tell Hermione to stay. She opens her mouth. You say, please, I can't think straight if you're there, and something goes wrong. She closes her mouth. Her eyes say something that you receive completely and do not have time to respond to properly. You say, I'll come back. You go. The greenhouses are below the main battle line in a space that the immediate fighting has not yet reached. You and Harry come through the gap in the wards at the angle Snape indicated, low and concealed, and you arrive in time to see Voldemort conducting the conversation about the Elder Wand, with the specific cold logic of someone who has been thinking about this problem for a while and has arrived at an answer he doesn't like. Nagini in her protective sphere. Snape about to die for the mathematics of wand allegiance. You and Harry hit simultaneously. Two blasting curses from two directions, the snake's protective sphere cracking under the specific combination of angles that prevents the shield from distributing the force evenly. Nagini recoils. The sphere holds. Voldemort does not engage you. He looks at you both, and the look contains something that is not fear and is not respect, but is the specific recalculation of someone who has just discovered that the situation has more variables than they accounted for. And he takes Nagini inside her damaged sphere, and he apparates away rather than fight you here. And the disappearance is itself the information. He protected the snake over everything else. The snake is the last one. Snape is bleeding on the greenhouse floor. You kneel beside him. He looks at you with the eyes of a man who has been playing a long game and is close enough to its end to see which way it falls. He says, tell your brother about the memories. He needs to know what to do with the information. There is something in him that Voldemort made years ago that your brother needs to understand before the end. You say, I'll tell him. He says, it's been an honor protecting you both. He says it with the specific difficulty of someone for whom the sentence is both true and painful and has never been said before. You leave him alive. Barely. Harry goes into the forest. You know why. You have known why since Snape's words assembled themselves into the picture they form. The specific picture of a boy who was used as a vessel without his knowledge and who now has to walk into the dark to offer himself as the solution to a problem he didn't create. He tells you before he goes. In the yard, quietly, while the battle pauses around you in the specific way that battles pause when the voice of Voldemort fills every head simultaneously. Harry says, there's something in me that has to die before he can. You say, I know. He says, I'm not coming back. You say, you don't know that. He looks at you with the look that is specifically his, the look of someone who has stopped being afraid of something because they understand it completely. He says, look after Hermione. He goes. You shift into fox form, small, low, invisible to tracking spells calibrated for human magic. You move through the patrol lines of the Death Eater forces around the Forbidden Forest with the specific patience of an animal that knows how to wait for the gap, the forest interior. The gathering of Voldemort's inner circle. Voldemort himself with the Elder Wand raised and Harry standing in front of him with his hands at his sides. You are behind a tree trunk 40 feet away. You wait. Avada Kedavra. Harry's hand comes up in the same moment. The instinct of someone who has spent 7 years deflecting things, and the green light hits something in him that is not quite him, and the something that is not quite him is what dies, not Harry. and the light disperses and Harry goes down. You are already moving. You come out of fox form behind Nagini's protective sphere, and you drive the basilisk fang through the sphere at the point where Snape's earlier double curse cracked it, and the crack becomes a fracture, and the fracture becomes an opening, and the opening is enough. The fang hits Nagini. The last Horcrux dies. Voldemort's scream is not a sound that belongs to a human throat. It is the specific sound of a person who has been making themselves not die for 70 years, discovering that the mechanisms of not dying no longer function. He turns on you. You are out of position, out of time. The curse is already leaving his wand before you have completed the motion of raising yours. Harry's body hits you from the side. Harry, who you watched fall, who you ran toward, who is apparently not as dead as a killing curse at point-blank range would normally make a person, throws himself between you and the incoming light. The green hits him. The darkness that comes out of it is not death. It is the death of the thing inside him that was never him, the soul fragment that has been riding in him since the night in Godric's Hollow. And the absence of it leaves something that is simply Harry, breathing in the leaves at your feet. You pull him up. You fire the red signal into the sky. Nagini is dead. The last Horcrux is gone. Voldemort is standing in a forest with his hands shaking, the specific trembling of someone who is fully mortal for the first time in decades and has no framework for what that feels like. You run. Harry wakes up against your shoulder on the edge of the forest. He says quietly that it is embarrassing to keep almost dying. You say, "It really is." He laughs, a real one. The specific laugh of someone who came back from somewhere and is surprised to find themselves back. He says, "Is it done?" You say, "The last one is gone." He says, "Then we need to finish it." The courtyard. Harry steps into the open and says Voldemort's name, and the name itself is the signal, because only someone who is not afraid of what the name means says it. And the courtyard understands what it means when Harry Potter, who was just dead in the forest, says the name of the man who killed him. Voldemort kills one of his own followers for getting in the way of his specific rage. The duel is the duel. Two wands. Two curses traveling toward each other in the specific way they have traveled toward each other throughout this war. Voldemort's killing curse and Harry's Expelliarmus. And around Harry, the golden shapes of the people who loved him and paid for that love gathering in the air with the specific quality of a debt being honored. You step beside him. You feel through the twin bond what Harry is doing with the force he is channeling, and you add yours to it without him asking, because asking was never how the two of you operated together. It was always the other thing, the thing that does not require words. The combined force hits the Elder Wand at the point where Voldemort's grip on it and the wand's own allegiance diverge. The wand flies, the curse rebounds. The greatest dark wizard in a century comes apart in the specific way that things come apart when the conditions that held them together no longer exist. The gray ash of him, spreading into the cold Scottish air, and the wind taking it without ceremony in the direction the wind chooses. The Death Eaters run. The courtyard goes silent, then not silent. The Great Hall afterward. The survivors find each other in the way that survivors always find each other, through the specific gravity of proximity and need. The hall becomes the place where the living gather and the dead are laid, and the specific distance between those two things is the distance of a breath, a choice, the specific inch between a curse that hit and a curse that didn't. Fred Weasley. The smile that was always in his eyes, even when his face was doing something else. Molly sitting beside him with her hand on his, and Arthur beside her, and the Weasley family arranged around this specific absence in the specific way that families arrange themselves around the thing that is not there. Tonks and Lupin together, which is the specific cruelty of a war that took two people who had finally found each other, leaving their son to grow up with the shape of that absence rather than the people themselves. Colin Creevey, who wanted to be there, who was. You sit on the floor of the hall near the wall, away from the main gathering, and you let the weight of it arrive, which it does, completely, and without the management you have been applying to everything for the last 8 hours. Hermione finds you there, and she sits beside you, and she does not say anything, because there is nothing to say, and she has always known the difference between moments that need words and moments that need presence. You hold her hand. After a while she says, "We did it." You say yes. She says, "They died for it." You say yes. She says, "That means it has to have been worth doing." You say yes. She leans against you, and you stay like that in the hall while the morning comes through the broken windows and the people around you begin the slow process of finding out what comes next. Then someone notices. The Elder Wand. In the chaos after Voldemort's death, in the specific confusion of a battle ending and people finding each other and the dead being tended, and the living processing that they are living, nobody thought to retrieve the wand. It flew from Voldemort's hand and landed somewhere in the courtyard, and in the morning, when someone goes to look for it, the place where it should be is empty. No wand, no evidence of where it went. Harry says, when told, "I didn't want it. I would have destroyed it if I could." You say nothing. You think about a wand that has been passed through the hands of everyone who ever wanted the specific kind of power it represents. You think about a battle with hundreds of people present, some of whom survived and some of whom didn't, and at least some of whom understood what the wand was and what it could do. You think about the specific category of person who fights on the right side for reasons that include wanting the wrong things. You say, "It's gone." Harry says, "Is that bad?" You say, "I don't know yet." You file it. The way you file everything that is incomplete and significant, in the place where things wait until they become clear. 19 years. The platform at King's Cross is noise and steam, and the specific warmth of a September morning being used as it was meant to be used for a departure towards something that matters. Your son is 11 years old and has his mother's eyes and your tendency to notice things other people miss. A combination that suggests his Hogwarts career will be interesting for all the wrong reasons. He is not nervous. This surprises you until you remember that he grew up in a house with two people who, between them, have faced most of what the wizarding world has to offer and have never quite learned to perform nervousness convincingly. Hermione stands beside you on the platform with her hand in yours and the expression of someone who is proud of something, in a way that she has decided to keep internal, which means the pride is very large. You watch your son walk toward the train and you think about your parents who did not get to do this, and about Dumbledore, who arranged for you to be here despite everything, and about Sirius, who would have been standing here making the entire situation more complicated and considerably more enjoyable. Harry and Luna are 20 feet down the platform. Harry's son has his father's hair and Luna's eyes, which is a specific combination that will take Hogwarts approximately 1 week to completely lose track of. Luna is pointing at something near the ceiling of the station that may or may not be there, describing it to their daughter with the specific conviction of someone for whom the question of whether something is there has never been the most important question about it. Harry catches your eye through the steam. He tilts his head slightly, the specific gesture of someone indicating that the world has arrived at a point they would not have predicted and are not sure they deserve. You tilt yours back. Ron is somewhere in the crowd with Gabrielle Delacour Weasley, who he met at Bill and Fleur's wedding when she was 12 and met again 6 years later when she was 22, and the meeting at 22 was a different kind of meeting entirely. They are late, which is characteristic, and the sound of Ron's voice apologizing for being late is audible from 30 feet away. The Hogwarts Express whistle, the children board, the steam rises. The platform begins its slow reduction from arrival to aftermath. Your son leans out of the window as the train starts moving, and you walk alongside it for the specific 10 seconds that parents walk alongside departing trains, and he says, "Will you be all right?" You say, "I'll manage." He says, "You always say that." You say, "It's always been true so far." He grins, and the train takes him, and the platform takes the gap he left. And you stand there for a moment with Hermione beside you, and the steam settling, and the ordinary Saturday morning of London arriving around you. She says, "He's going to be fine." You say, "I know, I'm not worried about him." She says, "What are you worried about?" You think about a wand that no one found, about the specific category of person who would want it, and the specific things they would do with the wanting, about the fact that 19 years is a long time and a short time simultaneously, and that the world has a habit of producing new versions of old problems when enough time passes to make the old versions feel resolved. You say, "Nothing specific, just keeping an eye on things." She looks at you with the eyes of someone who has known you long enough to read the sentence under the sentence. She takes your arm, she says, "Then we'll keep an eye on things together." The steam from the departed train drifts across the platform and disperses into the ordinary September air of London, and the world that the people who died for it never got to see continues doing what worlds do, which is continue. That is what it means to be the one who watches and prepares and files things away and holds barriers while other people move through the openings. The war is over. The watch never ends. But the watching now happens from here, from this platform, from a house where two people who found each other in the middle of the worst years of their lives have built something ordinary and real and worth protecting, which is, in the end, the thing it was always about.